Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, outside of the playoff picture, a relatively quiet Saturday in college football. Just a few observations. First of all, credit to Ohio State going on the road. Justin Fields was basically playing behind a backup offensive line. If you watch the game, the quarterback couldn't even snap the ball, and Justin Fields was phenomenal. He was incredible. I'm trying to think of what else happened on Saturday. Great win by Clemson. Obviously, Alabama, just unbelievable. I do not have a Heisman vote. I'll tell you this. I would have Mac Jones number 1. I would have Kyle Trask number 2. You know who I would have number 3? Devontae Smith, the wide receiver at Alabama. He is unbelievable, a total game changer. But because it was quiet, because there wasn't much that happened, I want to talk about two teams that had you asked me on August 29th, when we thought this season was going to kick off, would you ever talk about these teams on your podcast, Aaron? I could have never imagined a world where I talked about BYU and Coastal Carolina, only here we are. It's December. Christmas trees are up in people's houses everywhere. Home Alone is on the screen, and I'm talking Coastal Carolina, BYU on this show. What a world, what a time to be alive, and what a game. Before we get into the actual games themselves, listen, I want to do what everybody else in the media has done, which is give these two programs credit. And I know others did it throughout last week, but it's kind of crazy to think about on the most basic level. When I recorded this podcast on Wednesday night, this game was not made. At that time, Coastal Carolina was supposed to play Liberty. Friend of the show, Hugh Freeze, was supposed to be on the sidelines for Coastal Carolina's opponent. Liberty has to cancel because of COVID. And what do you know? These teams on 72 hours notice. I recorded on Wednesday night. This game was not set. It was set by Thursday, played on Saturday. So basically in less than 72 hours, this game came together. So credit to both schools first and foremost. I think they are a good metaphor for what I have been talking about on this show since August. I always believed, as you guys know, I've said it a million times, not that we had to play college football this year, but that the kids wanted to play, they wanted to give it a shot, and if it just couldn't be done, then it couldn't be done. But these are two of the programs that from the beginning have been part of this college football season. BYU specifically probably deserves a ton of credit. They had almost their entire schedule wiped out. 12 games later, they get 10, 11, 12 games put on the schedule. I believe it ended up being 11. I think one of their opponents was on their original schedule. They made 11 games out of thin air. And has been said by other people, they were the only school west of Texas that was willing to continue to play college football when the entire Pac-12 and the entire Mountain West shut down. So first of all, credit to BYU for just an incredible, incredible, incredible season with what they did. I know people want to try to tear them down, talk about their resume. First of all, it's not their fault that they had 7 Power 5 teams on the schedule, and all 7 of those teams were in conferences that went to conference-only schedules. But also they pushed through when everyone in their area, everyone in their region decided not to play football. So first of all, I want to give credit to BYU. I want to give credit to Coastal Carolina. I want to give credit to both of these teams for just playing this game in general. And I also want to say, this was a great game. Not sure if you guys got to see it, but came down to the wire. Coastal Carolina largely controlled the game, largely controlled the clock. We're going to get into the dynamics of it in a minute. And it came down to the final minute where Zach Wilson, the BYU quarterback, for people who do not know, Zach Wilson is trending as a first-round NFL draft pick. I actually saw a mock draft from a reputable NFL draft person this week that had him going number 2 overall behind Trevor Lawrence, ahead of Justin Fields, ahead of Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle from Oregon who opted out of the season, ahead of Jamar Chase, ahead of Micah Parsons from Penn State. That is how good Zach Wilson is in the eyes of the NFL people. Now, personally, I'd take Justin Fields over him in a heartbeat, but that's neither here nor there. But the bottom line remains, Coastal Carolina did an incredible job of keeping Zach Wilson in check, of keeping this offense in check, and it came down to the final possession of the game. Coastal Carolina up 22-17 under a minute to go, have to punt the ball back to BYU. BYU's driving, they're making plays. And, of course, what does the game come down to? Pass, goal line. It's Kevin Dyson, Titans-Rams Super Bowl, greatest show on turf. Same thing. Just short. No good. BYU loses. Coastal Carolina wins. And so it was an incredible game with an incredible finish. By the way, I don't think Brent Musburger or Joe Buck has to worry about their job. That was the worst play-by-play ever, but forgive me, okay? I'm not a play-by-play guy. But it was an incredible finish, an incredible ending to an incredible game. And a couple thoughts here. First of all, I know I just said it. Give credit to both of these teams. Also give credit to Coastal Carolina, where on a national stage, they literally just went out and showed the world how good they are, right? Like, I think we all kind of looked at them from a distance, and I'm not saying that I did, but I think a lot of people did, of, oh, they're cute, and they got some mullets, and they play on this teal turf, and they got quirky uniforms. They're not going to beat BYU, though. BYU's got a bunch of grown men along the lines of scrimmage, like literally grown men, 22, 23, 24. They got an NFL quarterback. Their running back, Tyler Algiere, is incredible. It's a good story, Coastal. You ain't beating BYU, especially on 2 days' notice. Well, if you watch the game, Coastal Carolina largely dominated. They dominated the line of scrimmage. That number 94 on the defensive line for Coastal Carolina, that dude's going to play in the NFL. Now, had a couple plays that were a little sketchy. Probably needs to work on his emotions a little bit. But, it was an incredible game. And Coastal was a better team. 6 yards per carry on the ground, and largely dominated the game. They held Zach Wilson, who came into the game completing 76% of his passes, to 19 of 30, which I'm not great at math, but I think that's a little under 66%, like 64%. On the other side, the Coastal Carolina run offense averaged over 5 yards per carry. Their quarterback, Grayson McCall, was effective, didn't try to do too much with his arm, but made all the right reads. And Coastal Carolina was the deserving winner. This was not fluky. This was not, something. No, Coastal Carolina was the better team. They deserve to win. And I'll tell you this. First of all, I want to give credit to the college football, the AP poll, the people who actually do the rankings in the AP poll, and here's why. The new AP poll came out on Sunday, and Coastal Carolina is ranked in the new AP poll. They are ranked number 11 in the country. And I think that's completely appropriate. And to me, this is why. That win over BYU is better than anything that a lot of teams have on their resume, and I hope when the College Football Playoff Committee comes out with their new rankings on Tuesday, they acknowledge what Coastal Carolina did. Because when I look at Coastal Carolina, that win over BYU is more impressive than anything that Georgia has done, anything that Miami has done, two teams that were in the top 10 last week. And people say, oh, Georgia would kill them. Maybe they would. But Georgia's best win is over a 5-4 Auburn team right now. They got smoked by Alabama. They got smoked by Florida. And their best win is over a 5-4 Alabama team. They also beat a bad Kentucky team, a bad Tennessee team, a bad Vandy team actually opted out on them this week. They beat Arkansas early in the year before Arkansas figured it out. I mean, you look at their resume. Florida has one win over a team with a winning record. Coastal Carolina, what they did on Saturday was more impressive than anything Georgia's done all year. More impressive than anything Miami has done all year, whose best win was probably at NC State, which is actually surprisingly good this year. So I hope the committee gives them credit. I hope Coastal Carolina does move up in the rankings. Not saying they should be in the top 4. Not saying they should surpass Alabama and Clemson. That's not what I'm saying. But give them credit. They should be about 7 to 8, somewhere in there, behind Texas A&M, behind Cincinnati. But that was a really impressive win. My last little thought on this game, by the way, was something that a few people have brought up to me, including my Saturday radio partner, Arnie Spanier, on Fox Sports Radio, and my intern, Zach, who both kind of said to me, dude, that was really fun. How do we make that happen every year? And I will say, it did kind of remind me, you guys remember, a lot of you guys, again, are college basketball fans. You guys remember the Bracket Busters games in college basketball, where back in the day, these mid-major conferences, they would send, the Missouri Valley would send their best team to play the best team from the WCC. So we'd get a random Wichita State Gonzaga game or Memphis whoever game, right? And it was the small conferences, and it was to give exposure to these small conferences, and that's what this felt like. And I thought it was a great question by both my radio partner, Arnie, my intern, Zach, of why can't we do this every year? This was so good for everybody. It was good for both of these programs, even BYU. It was a great national stage for BYU. It was clearly a great national stage for Coastal Carolina, who had College Game Day in town. It was a great stage for the city of Myrtle Beach, for the Coastal Carolina program, for all the guys with mullets and the teal field. Like, it was just great for everybody. And so I was thinking about it. I was like, isn't it all possible that we can do this in the future with college football the way that we used to do it in college basketball with bracket busters? And I don't think it'll be easy because, again, games are set months in advance. You can't just leave open dates at the end of the year like you did this year, and you never know who's going to be good and who's not going to be. But I was also thinking about it as it pertains to college basketball, and I was also, excuse me. I was also thinking how it pertains to college basketball in this sense, where I do think some of these smaller conferences in college basketball have done a better job lately of figuring out how to get marquee games for their conference late in the year. So let me give you an example. Conference USA in basketball, this is what they do. They make the final 2 weeks of the season open dates in college basketball in Conference USA, and basically what they try to do is give the best teams the most chances to play each other. So the hope is that 2 or 3 of them emerge, and all of a sudden you go from a conference that's only going to get 1 bid into the NCAA tournament to maybe 2 or 3. If this team that's in third place picks up 2 wins over the top-ranked team, maybe that gets you an extra team into the NCAA tournament. And so I was kind of thinking, like, is there a way for these conferences to do that too? Maybe Conference USA, which has Marshall and Florida Atlantic and some good programs down there, is there a way for them to leave the second, Saturday in November open, and also have the Sun Belt leave the second Saturday of November open, and just basically make up games on the fly, right? Like basically say, okay, first place team in our conference, you go play first place team in their conference. So maybe we do get a Coastal Carolina versus Marshall late in the year, or is it BYU? Is it Liberty, 2 independents saying, hey, we'll leave. How about this? We'll leave week 13 open or week 12 open or whatever. You guys leave your schedule in flux. You send your best team to play us, and we'll make a game out of it. And I know this is a historic year for BYU. It's a historic year for Liberty, so there's no guarantee. But it's just thoughts, because I thought it was a really, really, really cool situation. And I think it's fun. I thought it was fun. I thought it was good for college football. Again, I thought it was good for Coastal Carolina, Liberty, or BYU, everyone that was involved. And I do hope that we can figure out a way to figure this out going forward, because the one thing about college football, I'll tell you, is this. There's been a lot of adjustments and changes on the fly that I think are better for the sport. I think we don't, it's something that other people have talked about. Do we really need to put schedules together 25 years in advance? Do we really need to know that Alabama's going to Texas A&M or Texas in 2027 and 2028? Or can we just put games together more on the fly? I don't know, but I hope we figure out a way to do this, because I did think it was really, really fun. All right, kind of a natural transition from Coastal Carolina right up the road or down the road, or, I'm not going to lie, I'm not really keen on South Carolina geography. But on the same day that Coastal Carolina, Myrtle Beach, becomes the epicenter of college football